The Book of Proverbs, mostly written by King Solomon, is a holy source of God's own wisdom. It gives us timeless advice for our hearts, our minds, and the choices we make every day. Unlike ideas that change with the times, Proverbs offers truth that lasts. It is useful and powerful for everyone. In its short sayings, we learn about God's character. He cares deeply not just about our spiritual life, but also about how we talk, act, think, and treat other people. Proverbs gives clarity when we are confused, correction when we are wrong, and strength when we are unsure. It calls us to respect the Lord, to want wisdom more than money, and to live with honesty, good judgment, and humility. In the 40 lessons ahead, you will find insights that can change your life. Each one is based on the Bible and comes with a simple, practical step. Let this journey through Proverbs change not just what you know, but how you live each day. First lesson: the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Proverbs 1:7. True wisdom starts with respect for God. Fearing the Lord doesn't mean being scared of Him. It means having a deep respect and awe for how holy, powerful, and good He is. It means understanding that God's way of seeing things is much higher than our own. Real wisdom begins when we humble ourselves before Him. Some people reject God's teaching and only trust their own ideas. Proverbs calls that foolish. When we respect God, we become willing to learn. Our choices start to be guided by eternal truth, not just human opinions. Wisdom begins when we honor God as our final source of truth. Second lesson: trust in the Lord completely. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. Proverbs 3:5. This verse teaches us to rely on God totally, not just a little bit. Our own understanding is limited. It can be clouded by our feelings or our pride. But when we trust the Lord with all our heart, we give our plans, our logic, and our fears to Him. This kind of trust means believing God is good even when our situation is hard. It means choosing His way even when it is not the easy way. As we learn to depend on God's guidance instead of our own flawed thinking, we find a peace and direction that is beyond human ability. Trusting God leads to a life of divine clarity. Third lesson: a gentle tongue has power. A soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger. Proverbs 15:1. Our words can either heal or they can hurt. This proverb reminds us that how we speak is often more important than what we say. A gentle reply can calm a tense situation and end a conflict, but harsh or angry words will only make things worse. In a world where people often shout, a quiet and kind answer is very powerful. Wisdom teaches us to pause, to listen, and to respond with grace, especially when we are upset. Controlling your tongue is a sign of maturity and peace. When we answer with gentleness, we show the character of Christ and make room for healing and reconciliation. Fourth lesson: avoid the path of the wicked. Enter not into the path of the wicked, and go not in the way of evil men. Proverbs 4:14. God's wisdom makes a clear line between what is right and what is wrong. This verse is a warning to stay away from the influence and habits of people who live against God's will. Spending time with those who do wrong can slowly lead us to compromise, corruption, and trouble. Even small associations can pull us off the right path. Wisdom is proactive. It does not play with sin but runs away from it. We are called to walk in honesty, guided by God's word. By being careful about who we spend time with, we guard our hearts and stay on the path of life. Fifth lesson: guard your heart diligently. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Proverbs 4:23. Our heart is the center of our thoughts, feelings, and desires. It affects every part of our life. This verse tells us to guard it with all our care, like it is a precious treasure. What we allow into our hearts will shape our attitudes, our decisions, and our future. If we fill our hearts with God's truth, love, and wisdom, our lives will show that goodness. But if we let in bitterness, lies, or pride, it will eventually come out in harmful ways. Wisdom protects what is most important. By guarding our hearts, we protect our future, our peace, and our relationship with God. Sixth lesson: honor the Lord with your wealth, honor the Lord with thy substance, and with the first fruits of all thine increase. Proverbs 3:9. This verse teaches us to put God first in our finances and our resources. Honoring Him with our substance means recognizing that everything we have comes from Him. Giving the first fruits, the first and best part of what we receive, shows a heart that is thankful and full of faith. It is not just about giving money, it is about making God more important than any material thing. When we give to God first, we are saying we trust Him to provide for us. This kind of generosity is a form of worship. It lines up our hearts with God's values and opens us up to His blessings in ways we might not expect. Seventh lesson: the wise listen to correction. A fool despiseth his father's instruction, but he that regardeth reproof is prudent. Proverbs 15:5. Wisdom is not just about knowing what is right. It is also about being willing to change when we are corrected. This verse shows that a fool rejects instruction, especially from people in authority like parents. But a wise person values correction because they know it helps them grow and stay safe. Accepting criticism requires humility, but it leads to maturity. Even feedback that is hard to hear can be a gift if we receive it rightly. God often uses other people to guide us. A willingness to learn is one of the most important signs of wisdom. Eighth lesson: pride leads to destruction. Pride goeth before destruction, and an haughty spirit before a fall. Proverbs 16:18. Pride is a quiet destroyer. It tricks us into thinking we do not need anyone's help, that we are too good for correction, or that we are better than others. But Proverbs warns that pride comes before a great fall. A haughty spirit, an attitude of superiority, pushes us away from God and leads to bad decisions. True wisdom walks in humility, knowing we always need God's guidance and grace. When we think too highly of ourselves, we become blind to danger. God honors the humble, but He opposes the proud. Staying humble before God protects us from the ruin that pride always brings. Ninth lesson: a good name is a great treasure. A good name is rather to be chosen than great riches, and loving favor rather than silver and gold. Proverbs 22:1. Your reputation and character are worth more than all the money in the world. This proverb highlights the lasting value of a good name. A life marked by honesty, kindness, and integrity is a great treasure. Money can be made and lost, but a good reputation is built over time and has a lasting impact. God calls us to be people whose word can be trusted and whose actions
This is not worth
show
our
love.
peace.
When others speak well of us because we are faithful and gracious, God is honored. True wealth is found in being a person of honor, not just a person with many possessions. 10th lesson: wisdom is better than gold. How much better is it to get wisdom than gold, and to get understanding rather to be chosen than silver? Proverbs 16:16. In a world that chases wealth, God reminds us that wisdom is far more valuable. Gold and silver might give temporary comfort, but wisdom shapes our decisions, our relationships, and our eternal future. Understanding helps us go through life with clarity, peace, and purpose. This verse challenges us to change our priorities, to seek God's truth more than material gain. Wisdom leads to lasting fruit, while money without wisdom often leads to trouble. If we go after wisdom more than wealth, we will find ourselves truly rich in the things that matter to God and to others. 11th lesson. Walk with the wise. He that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. Proverbs 13:20. The people you spend time with will influence who you become. Proverbs makes it clear that being around wise people will make you wiser. Their example, advice, and choices will help you grow in character. On the other hand, spending time with foolish people, those who ignore God's ways, will lead to disaster. Influence is powerful. We often pick up the attitudes, values, and habits of those we are close to. This verse urges us to be careful about our relationships. Choose friends and mentors who love the Lord and live by truth. Godly friends will make your walk with God stronger and keep you safe from harm. 12th lesson. Hatred stirs conflict. Love covers offenses. Hatred stirreth up strifes, but love covereth all sins. Proverbs 10:12. Hatred creates division and chaos. It keeps offenses alive and wounds open. But love acts like a healing balm. It forgives, restores, and brings peace. This verse does not mean we should ignore sin, but that we should choose mercy over revenge. Love does not pretend the wrong did not happen. It overcomes the wrong. In relationships, love is the force that can mend what is broken. God's love covered our sins through Jesus, and He asks us to offer that same grace to others. When we choose love over hate, we choose unity over conflict and peace over pain. 13th lesson. The diligent will prosper. The hand of the diligent shall bear rule, but the slothful shall be under tribute. Proverbs 12:24. Diligence, steady, honest effort leads to influence and success. This proverb teaches that hard-working people will rise to positions of leadership, while lazy people will end up having to depend on others. God honors those who are faithful with their responsibilities. Diligence shows good character, discipline, and trustworthiness. In contrast, laziness leads to missed chances and a limited life. This is not just about a job. It is about being faithful in all areas: our spiritual life, relationships, and personal growth. Work done with integrity honors God and blesses others. Through diligence, we reflect God's nature. 14th lesson. Speak life, death, and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. Proverbs 18:21. Words are powerful. They can build up or tear down, bring healing or cause destruction. Proverbs tells us that our tongues hold the power to speak life or to speak death, emotionally, spiritually, and even physically. What we say matters. Words can stay in a person's heart long after they are spoken. Those who understand this power are careful with their words, speaking truth, encouragement, and blessing. When we speak with kindness and wisdom, we produce good fruit like joy, unity, and peace. But careless words bring pain. Let your speech reflect God's heart, because your words show who you really are. 15th lesson. Commit your plans to the Lord. Commit thy works unto the Lord, and thy thoughts shall be established. Proverbs 16:3. It is wise to make plans, but true success comes from giving those plans to God. This verse teaches us to put every project, goal, and decision under His authority. When we commit our work to the Lord, He gives us clarity and direction. Our thoughts become lined up with His will, and confusion turns into purpose. Trusting God with our goals brings peace, even when things do not happen as we expected. When God guides our plans, they will be grounded in a wisdom that lasts through every season. 16th lesson. A cheerful heart is good medicine. A merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bones. Proverbs 17:22. How we feel inside has a real effect on our health. A cheerful heart, full of thankfulness, joy, and hope, brings strength and healing, just like good medicine. But a broken, crushed spirit drains our energy and weakens both our body and our soul. This proverb reminds us to protect our joy and to focus on what is good, even in hard times. Joy is not just surface-level happiness. It comes from trusting God. When we walk with Him, our hearts can stay joyful no matter what is happening around us. That joy becomes a healing force for us and for everyone around us. 17th lesson, do not envy sinners. Let not thine heart envy sinners, but be thou in the fear of the Lord all the day long. Proverbs 23:17. It can be tempting to look at people who do not follow God and wonder why they seem to be doing so well. But this verse tells us to keep our eyes on what is truly important, respecting the Lord. Envy makes us blind to the fact that worldly success is only temporary. It also makes us discontent. The fear of the Lord leads to peace, purpose, and rewards that last forever. Instead of comparing yourself to others, trust that God sees your faithfulness. What looks like a loss now may be a great gain in eternity. Keep walking in righteousness and let God decide your reward. 18th lesson, a gentle spirit brings peace. Better is a dry morsel and quietness therewith than a house full of sacrifices with strife. Proverbs 17:1. This proverb teaches that peace is more valuable than wealth. It is better to have a simple meal in a calm and quiet home than to have a huge feast in a house full of arguing. Many people chase money, luxury, and success, but they have no peace in their relationships. True blessing is found not in what we have, but in the love, respect, and harmony in our lives. God wants our homes to be places of rest and peace. Choosing gentleness and humility brings a joy that lasts. Choose calm over chaos, and you will find a contentment that money cannot buy. 19th lesson, keep your word. A righteous man hateth lying, but a wicked man is loathsome and cometh to shame. Proverbs 13:5. Honesty is a mark of a godly person. A righteous person values truth and avoids lies in every form. Lying breaks trust, ruins your character, and will eventually lead to shame. On the other hand, living honestly, even when it is difficult, honors God and builds a life of respect. This verse reminds us that telling the truth shows how we walk with God. When we speak truthfully and keep our promises, people know they can rely on us. Let your
This is
yes
not worth
be
our
yes,
peace.
and your no be no. The Lord is pleased with hearts that love what is true and reject what is false. 20th lesson, don't boast about tomorrow. Boast not thyself of tomorrow, for thou knowest not what a day may bring forth. Proverbs 27:1. We are not in control of the future. This verse warns us against being arrogant and presumptuous when we talk about our plans. While it is smart to prepare, it is foolish to talk as if tomorrow is guaranteed. Life is fragile and unpredictable. Only God knows what will happen each day. Proverbs calls us to live with humility and to depend on Him. We should live each day with thankfulness and purpose. Instead of boasting, we should say, "If the Lord wills." This attitude keeps our hearts rooted in faith, not in pride. Trust God for tomorrow, but live for Him fully today, because today is all we truly have. 21st lesson, wisdom brings security. But whoso hearkeneth unto me shall dwell safely, and shall be quiet from fear of evil. Proverbs 1:33. When we listen to wisdom, which means listening to God, we find safety and peace. This verse gives a promise. Those who obey God's instruction will live without being afraid of danger or evil. This does not mean that life will be easy, but that we will have a security that comes from knowing God is in control. Obedience brings peace of mind, while disobedience brings worry. When you walk in God's ways, you are under His protection. Trusting His wisdom gives you a calm soul. Even when the world is chaotic, His truth keeps you safe from harm you cannot see. 22nd lesson. A soft spirit is true strength. He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh a city. Proverbs 16:32. Self-control is a sign of real strength. The world often looks up to people with external power, like warriors or leaders who conquer others. But God says that the person who can control their own emotions is greater. Being slow to anger shows patience, humility, and spiritual maturity. Anyone can lash out in anger, but it takes great wisdom to stay calm under pressure. Controlling your spirit means mastering your pride, bitterness, and selfish impulses. This kind of strength comes from walking with God. True power is not about conquering others, but about conquering yourself with God's help. 23rd lesson. Don't be wise in your own eyes. Be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. Proverbs 3:7. Thinking too highly of your own wisdom is a spiritual danger. It closes your heart to God's truth. This verse calls us to be humble. We must not depend on our own cleverness, but instead respect God and turn away from sin. Pride says, I know what is best. Wisdom says, God knows better. Respecting the Lord leads us to surrender to Him, and that surrender leads to real freedom. When we trust God's perspective more than our own, we walk on the path of what is right. Turning from evil is the natural result of fearing God and understanding how limited we really are. 24th lesson. Wise words refresh the soul. The tongue of the wise is health. Proverbs 12:18. Words have power, not just to hurt, but to heal. While harsh words can cut deeply, wise words bring restoration, clarity, and peace. This short verse shows the healing power of speaking with wisdom. A gentle, well-timed word can calm fears, give courage, and bring life to a tired heart. God calls us to be people whose speech builds others up. Just like medicine helps the body, wise words help the soul. Think before you speak. Let your words be guided by truth and love, and you will become a source of healing in a world that is full of hurt. 25th lesson. The righteous are bold as a lion. The wicked flee when no man pursueth, but the righteous are bold as a lion. Proverbs 28:1. Guilt produces fear, but a clear conscience gives courage. This proverb shows the difference between people who live with integrity and those who do not. The wicked are often haunted by fear and insecurity, even when no one is chasing them. But the righteous, whose hearts are clean before God, walk in boldness. Their confidence does not come from pride, but from being at peace with God. When you live honestly and follow God's ways, you have nothing to hide. You can stand firm, speak the truth, and face difficulties with strong faith. Like a lion that has no fear, true boldness comes from a pure heart. 26th lesson. A faithful friend is a treasure. A friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. Proverbs 17:17. Real friendship is constant, not just for the good times. This verse shows the nature of true love. It is loyal, always present, and never gives up. A friend who loves at all times is there in happiness and in sadness, in success and in struggle. A faithful friend shows the love of Christ, offering strength during life's hardest moments. The brother here means someone who stands with you when trouble comes. Godly relationships are not about convenience. they are about commitment. In a world of shallow connections, Proverbs reminds us of the beauty of deep, sacrificial friendship. Value the people who walk with you through every season of life. 27th lesson. Laziness leads to poverty, yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep, so shall thy poverty come as one that travelleth, and thy want as an armed man. Proverbs 6:10-11. This proverb warns how quickly laziness can bring ruin. It starts in small ways, a little extra sleep, a little delay, a little putting things off. But over time it opens the door to poverty and need. Loss does not always happen suddenly. It often comes slowly when we are not diligent. The image of a traveler and a thief shows that trouble arrives when we are not paying attention. God values hard work and faithfulness. A life of purpose requires us to be intentional. Do not wait for opportunities. Work with integrity. Manage your time well, and trust God to bless your faithfulness. 28th lesson. A humble spirit gains honor. Before destruction the heart of man is haughty, and before honor is humility. Proverbs 18:12. Pride leads to a fall, but humility leads to honor. This verse shows a spiritual rule. A proud heart resists correction, trusts only itself, and seeks attention, and that leads to ruin. But humility invites God's grace, teaches us to listen, and makes room for God's favor. Jesus himself taught that those who humble themselves will be lifted up by God. The way up is down. Choose to be humble every day in how you talk, how you respond, and how you lead. Watch how God honors your life when you do. 29th lesson. Righteousness guards the upright. The integrity of the upright shall guide them, but the perverseness of transgressors shall destroy them. Proverbs 11:3. Honesty acts like a compass in a confusing world. When you live with integrity, guided by truth, you avoid many traps and regrets. This verse teaches that integrity does not just please God, it also protects you. People who are upright are guided by a clear
This is not worth our peace.
and godly values. But those who are crooked will eventually be ruined by their own deceit. Living with integrity means doing the right thing even when no one is watching. It builds trust, honors God, and brings peace. In every choice, let truth be your foundation. The path of what is right may be narrow, but it is safe and secure. 30th lesson. The wise build their home. Every wise woman buildeth her house, but the foolish plucketh it down with her hands. Proverbs 14:1. A home is not built just with bricks and wood. It is shaped by words, attitudes, and daily choices. This verse speaks to everyone. Wisdom strengthens a family, while foolishness destroys it. To build your house means to nurture it with love, patience, discipline, and grace. A wise person creates unity, prays for their family, and leads by example. But a foolish person tears down trust with anger, selfishness, or neglect. God calls us to be builders of peace and life in our homes. Choose wisdom, and your house will become a place of strength, blessing, and lasting joy. 31st lesson. God sees the heart. Every way of a man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord pondereth the hearts. Proverbs 21:2. People often justify their actions and believe they are right, but God looks deeper. He does not judge by appearances or excuses. He examines our motives, desires, and true intentions. This verse reminds us that we cannot trust in our own self-righteousness. We might fool others and even ourselves, but we can never fool God. True wisdom requires honest self-examination and surrender to Him. God values purity, humility, and sincerity. Instead of living to look good to others, live to be right with God. A heart that seeks truth will always find grace in His eyes. 32nd lesson. Humility attracts God's favor. Surely he scorneth the scorners, but he giveth grace unto the lowly. Proverbs 3:34. God opposes those who are proud, but he gives grace to those who are humble. People who mock others or think too highly of themselves keep themselves from God's favor. But those who walk humbly, recognizing their need for God, receive his help, strength, and blessings. Humility is not weakness. It is strength under control. It opens the door for God to work in our lives. This truth is repeated throughout the Bible. God lifts up the humble and brings down the arrogant. If you want more of God's grace in your life, start by walking humbly with him and with other people. 33rd lesson. Avoid foolish arguments. Answer not a fool according to his folly, lest thou also be like unto him. Proverbs 26:4. Not every argument is worth having. This verse teaches us to be discerning in our conversations. Getting into a foolish argument can drag you down to the same level as the person acting foolish. Sometimes it is wiser to stay silent than to respond. Answering foolishness with more foolishness only makes the situation worse. Wisdom means knowing when to speak and when to be quiet. Choose your words carefully and avoid debates that go nowhere. Protect your peace and your witness. Let your life speak louder than your arguments. There is great power in a calm, self-controlled response that is based on truth. 34th lesson. The upright are guided by honesty. A false balance is abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. Proverbs 11:1. God delights in honesty and integrity in every part of life, including business and daily dealings. Long ago, merchants used stones to measure goods. Dishonest ones used false weights to cheat their customers. Today, this principle reminds us that any form of cheating, big or small, displeases God. He sees how we treat others and how we handle our responsibilities. Honesty builds trust and shows God's character. Whether it is with money, in relationships, or at work, live in a way that is transparent and fair. When we act justly, we invite God's favor and show his righteousness to the world. 35th lesson. He who guards his mouth guards his life. Whoso keepeth his mouth and his tongue keepeth his soul from troubles. Proverbs 21:23. Many of life's problems start with words we should not have said. This proverb teaches that self-control in speech is the key to a peaceful life. When we guard our words, we protect ourselves from unnecessary arguments, broken relationships, and regret. Once words are spoken, you cannot take them back. Wise people think before they speak, and they resist the urge to answer in anger or pride. Controlling your tongue is not easy, but it brings life and protection. Before you speak, ask yourself, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Let God's Spirit guide your speech, and your soul will stay in peace. 36th lesson. The righteous think before they speak. The heart of the righteous studieth to answer, but the mouth of the wicked poureth out evil things. Proverbs 15:28. Wise people think before they talk. This verse shows the difference in how the righteous and the wicked communicate. Good people pause, reflect, and try to speak truth with love. Their words are careful and purposeful, not impulsive or hurtful. The wicked, however, pour out evil words without thinking, speaking harshly, lying, or not caring about the consequences. Our words have weight. They show what is in our hearts. When we let God shape our thoughts and our responses, our speech becomes a channel of his grace, truth, and healing for everyone who hears us. 37th lesson. Envy rots the soul. A sound heart is the life of the flesh, but envy the rottenness of the bones. Proverbs 14:30. Being content brings peace and health, but envy destroys you from the inside out. This proverb warns that a jealous heart does not just damage your relationships. It eats away at your soul and can even affect your body. Envy focuses on what other people have, which twists your perspective and steals your joy. But a heart that is peaceful and content is full of life and thankfulness. God calls us to trust His timing and His provision. When you can be happy for others without comparing yourself, you will find inner freedom. True satisfaction comes not from having more, but from appreciating what God has already given you. 38th lesson. Patience is power. The discretion of a man deferreth his anger, and it is his glory to pass over a transgression. Proverbs 19:11. Patience is a sign of strength, not weakness. This verse reminds us that wisdom gives us the ability to pause our anger and choose grace instead of revenge. When someone hurts us, our natural reaction is to strike back. But it is an honorable thing to overlook an offense, not because we are ignoring it, but because we are choosing maturity and mercy. Forgiving others shows God's character and brings healing to our relationships. Patience allows time for reflection, peace, and restoration. Let go of offenses quickly. Those who can control their emotions walk in great strength and bring glory to God. 39th lesson. The way of the lazy is hard. The way of the slothful man is as an hedge of thorns, but the way of the righteous is made plain. Proverbs 15:19. Laziness might seem like the easy path, but it actually creates more obstacles in the long run. A lazy person makes a life full of thorns, missed chances,
This is not worth our
regret,
peace.
and constant struggle. On the other hand, righteous people, those who live with purpose and diligence, find that God makes their path clear. Their way may not be without challenges, but it is directed by God's wisdom. This proverb encourages us to take action, to work with discipline, and to avoid putting things off. The more we live with purpose, the more fruitful and satisfying our lives will be. 40th lesson. The fear of the Lord leads to life. The fear of the Lord tendeth to life, and he that hath it shall abide satisfied. He shall not be visited with evil. Proverbs 19:23. Respecting God is the foundation of a meaningful life. This verse promises that those who fear the Lord, who honor Him, obey Him, and live in awe of His holiness, will enjoy life, contentment, and protection. The fear of the Lord is not a scary fear. It is a deep respect and trust. It shapes our priorities, our decisions, and our desires. It brings peace and satisfaction, not anxiety. When God is at the center of our lives, we find life in its fullest sense, not just existence, but joy, purpose, and security under His care. The wisdom in Proverbs is a gift from God. It is not meant to just make us smarter, but to make us more like Him. Each verse carries timeless truth that speaks directly to the challenges, decisions, and relationships we face today. These 40 lessons show that a life built on God's wisdom is a life of strength, peace, and purpose. They challenge us to walk humbly, speak carefully, love deeply, and live rightly. Wisdom is not a final destination, but a daily journey. The more we seek God's heart, the more we will grow in discernment and grace. When we embrace wisdom, we make choices that honor God and bless the people around us. Let this be your prayer. Lord, teach me to live wisely. As you continue this journey, remember that God's wisdom is always available. It calls you to trust, to obey, and to flourish under His care. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. Proverbs 4:7.